Hey everybody, if you're joining us live on Facebook, welcome. It's 3 o'clock and we are here on Zoom as well with some friends. We're live in a conversation with Nicole Hamm, who's a candidate for Jacksonville City Council District 4. And District 4 is on the south side of Jacksonville. It's a vibrant community in Jacksonville. If you're new to the Zoom platform and you're here with us on Zoom, just to keep our conversation rolling, mute your microphone. That helps the audio quality for everyone. And when we do get to the discussion portion of the conversation, you can just unmute your microphone. Also, feel welcome to use the chat box here on Zoom to offer your questions or discussions with Nicole Hamm. As well, we have an agenda because we have a short time together. So our agenda includes meeting Nicole, the topic presentation, a little bit of discussion, and then we'll finish up with a survey. We'll be flying through conversation this afternoon. I know a lot of you are preparing for the storm and we're all watching it closely. So if you're joining us live here on Facebook, thank you so much for tuning in and staying with us as you make preparations to stay safe with your family. The zoning in District 4 is a really interesting topic that Nicole has chosen to address in this town hall this afternoon. Southside of Jacksonville is a beautiful area with huge live oaks spread and sprinkled throughout the community. As well, there's some iconic landmarks that all of us that have grown up or have lived in Jacksonville for a while, we recognize these iconic landmarks. Lots of local businesses as well. It's a really diverse population that lives in District 4 on the south side, from young folks rising to families, as well as those of us who have the affordability to live a life that has them living in condos or apartments or duplexes and townhouses and even single family homes. The area also includes the beauty and vibrancy of town center, along with a wide selection of local businesses, as well as regional and national chain stores. I'd like to introduce you to Nicole Hamm. She is a Democrat running for Jacksonville City Council District 4. District 4 is considered Jacksonville's south side. Its east-west boundaries are 295 to University Boulevard, and north-south boundaries are Atlantic Boulevard to JTB. What I appreciate about Nicole is her willingness to engage in challenging conversations. Now she's here to talk with us and listen to us on the topic of zoning in District 4. So I'm going to stop the screen share and hand this off to Nicole.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate that introduction. And thank you all that are joining us this afternoon, especially as we navigate the weather and prepare for this storm. So thank you for taking a couple moments out of your day to be with us in our virtual world. So I want to talk about zoning today just because it's a really hot button topic on the south side of town. So let's just kind of start with what zoning is. And by its definition, zoning is the way a community controls the physical development of land and use of property. So essentially every property has a zoning designation. And there are so many. I actually spoke to a very nice young woman for multiple times at the planner's office on Friday. I'm just kind of picking her brain about all of these designations and kind of where District 4 lands. So there are more than this, but just a few that are really important and very visible that I want to touch on. Commercial, residential, and office. So our single family homes, our schools, our vocational trades, such as Tulsa Welding School off of Southside, our commercial neighborhood, so our restaurants and retail sales. So think town center, or again, Southside Boulevard from the beauty salon all the way down to the yoga studios. Commercial community, so our car sales. I know if you drive down Beach Boulevard, there are just lots of cars on either side of the road. And also our industrial business park. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but off of St. John's Bluff, there is an industrial business park behind there called East Park. So those are just a couple of the zoning designations that we have in particular that are very prominent in this district. So the city of Jacksonville has an entire planning and zoning department. And essentially, their job is to help regulate the way properties are designated, from building height to land coverage to density. So their job is to create a set of goals of what the city will look like, and to make sure that there is a place for each and every by the zone designation that they have. And they're all acronyms. So CRO is the commercial residential office, and IBP is the industrial business part. And I have all of those hard documents if anybody's interested. She was kind enough to share them with me through like multiple emails. So I've done a little bit of digging, and I kind of got brought up to it because I was researching and talking to some of the HOAs and asking what they need and what have been their biggest pressure points in the district. And one in particular was zoning. And in particular, the one that most interested me was from Secret Cove about the Belfort corridor. Now, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with the Belfort Road area, but it is a 2-lane road, one way in, one way out, with single family homes in neighborhoods such as Secret Cove. But then there's also restaurants. There's Mr. Taco has a brick and mortar off of that road. Liberty Bakery, I believe, is over there as well. And so there's just been pressure points with how do we grow this community and develop it without infringing on the current zoning, and how it's affecting the residents and how they would be impacted with zoning updates, such as trying to expand the Belfort corridor. And so then I started digging some more about what that looks like. And then it kind of comes back to traffic, right? So the Southside is a busy part of town. It is the middle way to get to and fro, whether you are trying to go downtown or towards the beaches or anywhere in between. You are going to take one of our major roads, whether that's Atlantic Boulevard, Beach Boulevard, University. You are going to be in touch with some of those roads as you make your way to a different part of town. And there was a study in 2017 on traffic in the area, specifically the Southside area. And it touched on major roads such as Touchton, Bowden, Parental Home, Belfort, Gate Parkway, Southside Boulevard, Town Center, and UNF Drive. All District 4, right? So even though it was just that Southside area, these are roads that are being impacted by everyone in Jacksonville that is riding them. And one thing that I found extremely interesting is that as we continue to build, we have to begin to think about what traffic looks like on our roads. And as a resident on the South Side, it gets sticky in the morning between people trying to go downtown. I'm going the opposite way of traffic, luckily, towards the beaches, but trying to come in or going north into downtown, or including the buses of kids trying to go to school, and all those other things. As you develop your traffic in your streets, begin to come under inspection as to what it looks like to expand. And they had some interesting recommendations as far as improvements, and they based this information off of what this would look like in 2040. So many years from now, but you have to start thinking about what does the level of service look like as far as residents moving to and fro as we continue to grow our population, grow our residential neighbors, and what does that look like? And a lot of the recommendations were to widen from 2 to 4 lanes, which is great, except that there are some people that already have homes right off of the 2-lane street that they're trying to expand, which would inadvertently infringe on their yard space. So now you kind of got a conundrum of, well, you've got residents that are against it, which makes sense because I don't want anybody infringing on my yard space, but also with the level of traffic and how we're growing as a city, how do we make sure that our traffic is efficient? So zoning is a hot topic and a very important subject because it impacts everybody, but particularly the Southside residents. And In particular to Belfort, when I was speaking to some of the neighborhoods and the HOAs that had these pain points about it, it was the recommendations of widening were just not feasible for residents. And I can agree with that because, you know, you have this designated zoning for a single family property that is now being shortened or diminished because now we're trying to accommodate traffic and also accommodate new development. So what does that all mean, right? That all means that essentially our city has to be mindful of the way that we develop this community. And we have to be mindful in a way that we already respect the residents that have been, but also create a plan that strategically allows others that want to be a part of this particular Southside community the opportunity to do so. And there have been construction of other developments of single family homes around tighter areas such as Tustin and Belfort, but it's in a way that the current residents are not infringed upon. So as we keep growing and developing, we're going to have to find space for all of these people, accommodate all of these cars and moving bodies going to and fro. And it's important that as residents, we are mindful of who is advocating for what that looks like. And as we continue to talk about this, and I hear from other people and hear from other residents about those pressure points as far as traffic and zoning, I can already start to say and advocate for that when we get to the point of having interested developers in real estate, we need to look at where there is already space. And there is a lot of space in this immediate area. So even if you think of the Morocco Shrine is right off of St. John's Bluff, huge property. And there is a section between UNF and the Morocco Shrine that is just open space. Now, I am not aware of who owns that property, and I'm not aware of any plans or proposed plans to do anything with that property. However, with the location, I think that that could be considered an option for possibly a zoning designation of commercial neighborhood. You've got your college population right there. You're coming off of the town center. Maybe someone doesn't want to continue to go to the town center because it's so busy, but just wants to have a couple grocery stores and a boutique where they can get everything and grab everything and go, rather than having to go through the entire town center concept. So I'm just saying, I think it's important to be mindful of, one, what already exists in the neighborhood, because we want to protect that. And we want to protect the impact that it's going to have on our residents, whether that's traffic, whether that's environmental, whether that's social. So we want to be mindful to hear what people are having to say and what they're already experiencing. And then for two, begin to really investigate what property looks like and what's maybe an opportunistic platform for them to experience. There are so many commercial real estate and just regular realtors that love this area. I mean, you are smack dab in the serve. Jacksonville, 15 minutes from downtown, 25 minutes to the beach, and you're right by the mall, the movie theater, bars, restaurants. So you've got everything you need. So it is prime real estate. And even though we want to promote our economic growth and drive our economic footprint, we want to do it where we're still partnering with the community and developing what we already have. So with zoning, I just want to invite in a conversation about what that looks like for you. What have you experienced maybe on the opposite side of town in your zoning, and how that has impacted? And any reservations, any concerns that you might want to throw my way, so that as I begin to dig down into how I can be of service for you, that I'm listening and hearing and advocating in the correct way. So with that, I want to open up the conversation to a dialogue with you all, and hear from you about zoning, whether that is in District 4. I would love if you were in District 4 and had more information for me. But even if you're not, just how particular zoning bills and legislature or permissions have impacted your direct residential experience or business experience. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
All right. Um, Thank you. For those of you joining us live on Facebook, we're in a conversation with Nicole Hamm, who is a candidate for Jacksonville City Council District 4, which is considered the south side of Jacksonville. Our topic today is zoning. And while we know that many of you are preparing for the storm or watching the weather closely and doing great safeguards of your own property, we're here talking about property, and we know that you'll be tuning in to this recorded version on Facebook after it lands. So we just say welcome, even though we know you may not be here with us live in this moment. We know that you'll be listening in after this recording. So a few things to bring up, Nicole, that I'm hearing from the community is it's great to talk about land that's being developed for new homes, new retail space. A good question that's come in is like, what about greenscape? What about mitigated lands as buffers? Because part of what increases property value is green area where people feel like they have space to breathe. What does that look like in District 4? And what's your thoughts on those kind of aspects of like green space and buffer zones?
Yeah, I think buffer zones are great. I also think we have to be mindful of some of the other bottlenecks that District 4 is experiencing, such as homelessness and a misplaced population. So sometimes those open spaces or those spaces that are privately owned by either a homeowner that is not present or or for example, there is an open space behind or adjacent to my condo complex that's owned by the state, the Department of Transportation. And so now you kind of got to be mindful of what does that look like, because there's a fence, at least by my adjacent open space, that says the property of Florida Department of Transportation. So then you kind of got to start climbing up the state and like, well, what are you guys going to do with this? I've got people that are loitering. I have homes back there that still need to be torn down, but we can't get in touch with the owner of the property. So being mindful of some of those issues that we already need to work on and fix, so that these spaces are truly buffer spaces, not spaces that become a forgotten cause, right? Because then you start seeing people loiter, you start seeing overgrown weeds and who's supposed to maintain and who's got the authority to go in and clean up and fix all of these things. So that gets a little tricky. So that's why we want to make sure we understand and know who owns this, what are they planning to do with it, what's proposed. And the city of Jacksonville has a great website and code book about zoning where you can look at what's being proposed in your community. And you can also call. I mean, they were extremely pleasant the 18 times that I called about answering all of my questions. And you can just give them the address of a resident or a business neighborhood, or if you see any of those notice, they're usually colorful chiroplasts, almost like yard signs that say notice of public hearing or signage. And you can take that code and call or and say, hey, there's this code, what's going on with this? All right, is a new business coming up? Are they promoting new signage? So if we're going to advocate and fight for open space, let's make sure it's really open space and real buffers. So that means we need to have somebody that's accountable for it and responsible for what it looks like, the maintenance, and ultimately the decision of what happens with it next. And unfortunately, as we do continue to grow, we are going to start to have that conversation of, well, there's all this open space, can we use this? And now do we know, does it have that designation as an open space? And that is a zoning designation, is open space. So making sure that whatever space is designated in that zone, so we don't have anybody trying to come in and infringe upon it, but also making sure that whoever has that designation and that responsibility is taking care of it as well. So I agree with you. I mean, I live in a condo, but I do know if I had a single family home, I would want a little bit of space. I don't want people, right down the street trying to be all up in my grill. So I get it. But we've got to be mindful of whose responsibility, making sure we're clear with that, and a constant vigilant eye on how it's going. Because the moment the weeds get overgrown and people think that it's okay to litter, now it's not an open space, it's turning into a dump. And we don't want that. We want to have an open space that is well maintained. And maybe eventually where we can have beautiful landmarks or even just a park designation that it is an open space or a field. Like we can play there. But at the beginning and getting down to it, we need to make sure we're aware of who's responsible and what it looks like and where it looks like, so that it's not just in the way or that it's not infringing on someone else traffic and zoning and their space as well. So that was a great question. And I forgot to note that as one of my designations, but that is. And you will see in areas of Jacksonville that there is designated open space that is not well maintained and is not, being monitored by the local community of how it's being groomed and well kept. So great question.
Awesome. For those of you joining us live on Facebook, welcome. We are in a conversation with Nicole Hamm, who is a candidate for Jacksonville City Council, District 4. District 4 is considered Jacksonville's Southside. It stretches pretty much, the boundaries are 295 to University Boulevard, and then Atlantic Boulevard to JTB. And so that's a huge swath of real estate. Today's topic is zoning. So earlier, Nicole had mentioned about some pinch points in the district and that Southside is this kind of like central heartbeat of the city of Jacksonville. To get from one side of town to the other to all of the great diverse opportunities in our amazing city, you go through a road that's on the south side. So these pinch points, as things develop, one of the questions that's come in is about these pinch points. What do you think about mass transportation? In our city, we have mass transportation. It's not used as much, but as the city grows over the next 40 to 50 years, what would mass transportation look like here to help with those kind of pinch points?
That's a great question. And I think that it's extremely important because you tend to have a lot of transplants from up north. My mom is actually on our Zoom platform, and my mother is originally from Massachusetts. So they have the T system that's got these rail, and I lived in DC where you could take the metro underground, and Jacksonville is not that kind of city. So we rely heavily on our bus. Busing is our main mode of public transportation. And that is an interesting one, and it's something that I've heard from people that actually, let me even go back. There was a point in time when I came back from Washington, D.C., where I did not have a car. I was sharing a car with my mother, and I was working at the restaurant, the Tilted Kilt on Southside Boulevard. And I would take the bus from my house to Southside Boulevard to get to work. True story, I swear to God, unless I had somebody that could come pick me up. And if I had to be to work at 11, I had to be at the bus stop by 9:30. And that was the only way that I could get a schedule to get me to that part. And mind you, it's less than 2 miles away from my actual residential home. But because of the way the schedule ran and the other stops that it had to make, I could not cut it close to take the 10 o'clock bus that would get there at 11 or 10:52, I believe it was something, a weird, strange number like that, like 10:53, 10:52, because I had to be clocked in by 11. So I think that has something to say with, is that coming from, and I would have to do some digging and research, but is that scheduling because of when we are experiencing more people using the bus? Or is it a budget issue? Is it just the fact that we are not as active in that route to where we don't need as constant and consistent busing in that way? So I would have to do some digging on that, but it definitely is one of those things where when I was in DC, if I had to be to work at 11, I could catch the train at 10, boom, 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 fourth stop is my job, and I'm up and I'm ready to go. But with Jacksonville, it's a little bit different because you've got a big geographical area to adhere to, and then you've got all these other places you're trying to go. And with the bus being so large, you can't just get out and walk on the other side of the street. They've got to make their way all the way around to let you out on the proper side of the road, things like that. So, and in our public safety. But you're absolutely right. Our transportation, not that there is a need to have a rail system or a subway system. We don't need that here. But we do need to begin to evaluate, is what we're doing with Jacksonville Transportation Authority working? And I would have to do some research on that. I don't have the answer for that, if it is or if it isn't. But I do know when I did not have my vehicle, it was a matter of looking at the schedule and saying, if I'm trying to get here on time and be clocked in, this is the route I've got to take, because I can't, I'm not experiencing traffic. I'm not underground where there's no one else but the trains. I'm not experiencing, an ease to just get to and fro because I'm on the Skyline, and the Skyline's downtown, but we don't have one on the Southside. And so we're using bus, and we've got to think of traffic, accidents, safety for those that are using it, and then also the wide area that it's got to cover in a certain amount of time throughout all of the day. So I would have to research and do some digging in the Jacksonville Transportation Authority and some history and see what that looks like. But I always know in my experience, it worked. And it for me, it was okay. But for someone that has to get someone else somewhere, or then they've got to go to work, or they've got 2 stops, it might be a little tough, and there might be a little bit of a bottleneck of flow and ease of transportation. So that's something that I'm willing and happy to dig into as well. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, transportation is really related to jobs, and having employees, reliable employees have to have reliable transportation. Our topic is zoning. So for those of you joining us live on Facebook, we're talking with Nicole Hamm, who's a candidate for Jacksonville City Council, District 4, which is Jacksonville's south side of town. There's a primary election in just a few weeks on August 18th, and Nicole is on the ballot, and she's a Democratic candidate. One more topic just to bring up that's coming in from the field is, like, if somebody's really got an issue, is there somebody they should call? Because we only have a few minutes left before our time is over. Is there numbers or anything that they can call to find out about zoning?
Absolutely. Like I said, the city of Jacksonville has a lot of things on its webpage. What you will have to do is, it's an automated system to vet and direct your call. And then you have to ask to speak to a planner. And that planner is the one that has the information and able to look up those residential codes or those zoning codes that you might see here or there as you're traveling. So that number, the zoning section in particular, is 904-255-8300. And the current planning division is 904-255-7800. And you request to speak with the planner. And everyone that's a resident, I really encourage you to look into what is already proposed for your area, and to begin a conversation about what that looks like, and how that's developing. And then I also invite you to begin a conversation with your elected officials about what you need in keeping our zoning up to date. That, of course, is elected officials' responsibility. However, it helps to have a little nudge as they are inundated with a lot of things that they're working on. And we obviously respect that and love that. But, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if you've got that problem point in your yard, hello, District 4 City Council person. I want to understand what's going on with this particular coding, because it seems to not be up to date. And even if it seems that way, having that awareness as an elected official, I would know how to advocate for you or see what's really going on. It may be up to date and not just well kept, or it may be up to date and we're in the process of looking over proposed permissions and spacing. So I invite you to stay engaged in those conversations. And if you are part of an association or your neighborhood has an association, get involved. They are so great about being a direct line to city council. When I reached out to quite a few neighborhoods in the district. They were extremely forthcoming with information about what they were experiencing, what they needed, what they thought they could, they thought it looks like to get that improvement. So get in the conversation, because that's how we know what we need to do. And it helps that we live here, but there's also, we don't live in the 30,000, 45,000 homes that are in this area. So if there is something that, whether it's zoning, traffic, and the two really go together. So if there is a traffic point, it probably is directly correlated with zoning. And that's something you can begin a conversation about. And it's something that will not only keep elected officials engaged in what is happening when we are pushing, but also what we can do for you past that. So that's done. What else is next that you need? How else can I help you? And that's a conversation that I love to have. And with my website, you can always reach out to me and fill out a contact form or take my email. And I will always be accessible to hear what you have to say, and also to help advocate for whatever it is that is in the best interest of our community.
Thank you, Nicole. We're almost out of time. I wanted to invite everyone to learn a little bit more about Nicole, as she said, on her website, which is NicoleHamm.com. As well, if you are inspired by Nicole and her passion and energy, I encourage you to go to the website, NicoleHamm.com, and fill out the application form and volunteer for her campaign. Get involved behind the scenes. Nicole is a huge advocate for taking the city that she grew up in and making it an even better place to live for everyone in Jacksonville. The website is NicoleHamm.com. There are several forms on the website. A contact form is on the front page, a volunteer form. So either one that you fill out, Nicole will get that information. As well, feel welcome to donate to Nicole's campaign. It takes money to run a grassroots campaign. The tagline is, "It takes dollars to make change." And Nicole is a change agent. She's young, she's vibrant, and she's the fresh voice and energy that Jacksonville needs. As well, when you do sign up on the website for either just contacting and reaching out or volunteering, you'll receive a weekly newsletter with the updates from the campaign. So you can stay in the loop on what's going on, which is really important to stay connected to the place in which you live and where you've invested your energy. I'm going to hand this back to Nicole for a final farewell before we log off.
Yes, thank you all so much. I love these conversations. I love learning. And like I said, I love learning how I can support you. And I look forward to really working with you and really getting down to how we can continue to grow and develop and strengthen the Southside area, and in turn strengthen all of Jacksonville. So please let me know if you need anything. Please let me know if there is a way in which you want for us to support you, or for you to support us. We are here for you. We love you, and we look forward to being your next city council person.
Thank you, Nicole. On August 18th, please vote. If you already have your ballot in hand, please fill it in for Nicole Hamm. She is running for Jacksonville City Council. On August 18th is the primary election. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Zoom as well as Facebook Live. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe.